مجمع الأندلس التعليمي، تعلم عصري ملهم بهوية وطنية وقيم إسلامية.
Hello dear students, it's me again, Mr. Osama Abdurraouf, introducing a very interesting lesson, writing a descriptive paragraph. In this lesson, we'll learn together how to write a descriptive paragraph and what tools can be used. Before we start our lesson, let's again check our homework for yesterday. Open your workbooks, page 43, to check exercise D. Exercise D. Here are the answers. Number 1. Will have been living. 2. Are closing. And leaves. Number 3. Will you be and will be watching. Number 4. Will call and arrives. And finally, number 5, will be relaxing. Now it's time for lesson 6, writing. The lesson will be on your student books page 57 and on your workbooks page 42 and 43. Here are the objectives for today. At the end of the period, students should be able to brainstorm for writing ideas. Number 2, read a descriptive paragraph and answer questions to understand its layout. Number 3, distinguish between similes and metaphors. And number 4, write a descriptive essay. Let's start today's lesson. Open your student books page 57 to do exercises A, B, and C. Exercise A. In exercise A, we have 3 questions. Question number 1. What makes a place worth visiting? Question number 2. Do you enjoy reading descriptions of places? Why or why not? And question number 3. What can make a description of a place interesting? Please pause the video for about 3 minutes, think about the 3 questions, and have your answer in your mind. After that, play the video again to check your answers. I'll introduce some model answers for you. Go on. I hope you did well. Let's have a look at some model answers. For question number 1, what makes a place worth visiting? An answer could be as follows. There are a number of reasons why a place may be worth visiting. The first thing is because of its outstanding beauty. For example, Antelope Canyon in Arizona or Victoria Falls in Zambia and Zimbabwe. The second is that the place may have a rich history and places of historical interest, such as the Acropolis in Greece, the site of Palmyra in Syria, or Al-Zubara Fort in Qatar. Another reason why a place may be worth visiting is that it may give visitors the opportunity to do an activity or activities that cannot be done elsewhere. For instance, mountain climbing in Nepal or China. What about the answer of question number 2, which is, do you enjoy reading descriptions of places? Why or why not? Of course, an answer here differs from one person to another. But here is an example for you. Yes, I do. A well-written description of a place can take you on a virtual tour of that place by activating your imagination. Or, no, I don't. I'd rather watch a documentary or experience the place firsthand. Let's move to the third question. What can make a description of a place interesting? An answer could be, a description of a place is interesting when it appeals to the reader's senses. This is best achieved through interesting details that portray what life is like there and help the reader create a sense of the place, as well as through the use of language that is colorful and descriptive. Now let's move to exercise B. Before doing exercise B, study these two figures of speech and then watch a video to reinforce your knowledge about them. Here we're gonna study the difference between using a simile and a metaphor. To write a great or a perfect description of something, you need to use similes and metaphors. They work very well in description. Both of them are widely used by writers to create mental images for their readers and make their texts more lively and interesting. Let's first have a look at similes. Usage. When you use a simile, you say that something is like or as something else. For example, he crept into the room as quiet as a mouse. Another example, the cloud was fluffy like cotton candy. Example number 3, the snowflake sparkled like millions of tiny diamonds. And the last example here, he was as angry as a grizzly bear. To sum up, when you use a simile, you use like or as to compare two people or two things. Okay? Now let's move to metaphors. When you paint a picture by saying that someone or something is someone or something else, you use a metaphor. For example, chocolate is heaven in a wrapper. Chocolate and heaven here are the two things that the writer says they are the same, right? Another example, the branches of the old tree were long fingers scratching at the window. Third example, you have a heart of stone. A fourth example, you are the sun in my life. And finally, there is a fluttering forest of feathers. So, when you use a metaphor, then you say something is something else. I hope similes and metaphors are now clear in your mind. Here is another chance for you to understand well. Watch the following video about similes and metaphors. After watching the video, do exercise B. Please pay attention, watch and take notes.
Imagine a man who is noble and dignified. What might you compare him with? What about a lion? There are two ways to express this comparison. How are these two sentences different? The first sentence compares the man to a lion clearly by using the words like or as. In contrast, when we say the man is a lion, we actually are turning the man into a lion. The first sentence is a simile. In a simile, the reader mentally compares the two different things. The second sentence is a metaphor. In a metaphor, the reader feels the comparison between the two different things. What simile or metaphor could you make comparing these objects?
Now I think you're ready to do exercise B. Exercise B. Read the descriptive paragraph below and do the activities that follow. Actually, this exercise is a sort of integration between reading and writing. We're going to read, take notes, and use those notes while writing. Let's do the questions together. Here, in number 1, Match the highlighted adjectives in the text with their synonyms A to F below. What do you notice about the synonyms? I think to answer this question correctly, we need to do it the opposite way. How? We should read the words or the highlighted words first and then look for their meaning in the question. Let's start by massive. Yes, let's read it in its context in line number 2. The island is actually the result of a massive volcanic eruption. I think massive is related to size. Yes, it may mean very big or huge, right? So the answer of massive is D, very big. Thank you very much for your attention. But now it's your turn. You have to find the synonyms of towering, breathtaking, countless, delicious, and ancient. How? Read them in their contexts and try to guess their meanings. And after that, write them next to their synonyms. Go on, pause the video for about 2 minutes, reading the words and trying to find their synonyms. Go on. Here are the answers. Yes, what's the synonym of towering? True, very high, which is A. What about the synonym of breathtaking? Yes, E, very impressive. Let's move to countless. Yes, very many, a lot. What about delicious? Yeah, very tasty. And finally, what about ancient? Yes, very old. Now let's move to question number 2. Why has the writer chosen to use the highlighted words instead of the synonyms that feature in the activity above? I'll help you with this question. And keep it in mind, keep it by heart. The writer has chosen to use strong adjectives because they make the description more interesting and colorful. Instead of saying big, he said massive, for example. Remember? Now let's move to question number 3. The writer uses figures of speech in the form of similes and metaphors in the text. Look at the underlined parts of the text and determine which figure of speech is being used in each case. The underlined parts are as follows. The island of Santorini is a feast for the senses. What do you think? Is it a simile or a metaphor? Yes, it's a metaphor. Why? Because the writer said that something is another. The island is a feast. Food, right? What about the other underlined part? Have a look at it. Yes, the sun drops like a ball of fire. Like. So what is this? Yes, it's a simile. Finally, have a look at the last underlined part, which is their meal under the blanket of stars. What is this? Yes, it's a metaphor. Now it's time to define these two words, simile and metaphor. First, simile. A figure of speech used to describe something in terms of something else, using as or like to make the comparison. For example, this cake is like a rock. She was as light as a feather. Example that feature in the text, the sun drops like a ball of fire. Let's move to metaphor. A metaphor is a figure of speech used to describe something in terms of something else. The comparison is between two things that, although unrelated, are believed to have a quality that is similar. For example, the city is a jungle. It's not the city is like a jungle. If we say like, then it's a simile. But if you say something is another, so it's a metaphor. Another example, she is a night owl. She is a night owl. It means she stays up late every night. The examples that feature in the text are Santorini is a feast for the senses and Under the Blanket of Stars. Now it's time for the last question in exercise B, which is number 4. Why do you think the writer has used these figures of speech? The answer is the writer uses these figures of speech to make the text come alive. The images he or she creates appeal to the reader's senses and stimulate his or her imagination. After finishing exercise B, I hope you will use all you learned here to write a good description in exercise C. Let's move to exercise C. Exercise C. Write a descriptive paragraph about a place worth visiting in Qatar. Read the tip here. When writing a descriptive paragraph, remember to 1. Use vivid and colorful language to stimulate the reader's imagination. 2. Use strong or powerful adjectives for descriptive accuracy. Number 3. Use figures of speech such as similes and metaphors to help your description come alive. Now give yourself some time to answer the question. Pause the video, write your answer, and then come play the video again for a model answer. Take your time. Here is a sample answer for you. Qatar's capital, Doha, is a city where tradition and modernity meet. A precious diamond sparkling on the edge of the Arabian Gulf. Old wooden fishing boats, like resting seabirds, float on calm waters against a background of towering skyscrapers that glitter in the morning sun. A few streets away is the traditional market of Souq Waqif, full of stalls and tiny shops, selling everything from jewelry to falcons. Walk from there down to Doha Corniche, to the Museum of Islamic Art, and you will get a stunning view of the bay. From there, you can watch the sea turn into a rainbow-colored garden in the sunset. Heading along the coast, you'll find Qatar Cultural Village, where old and new buildings stand together in a perfect harmony. Thank you very much, my dear students, for your attention. Now let's move to your homework. Open your workbooks, page 43, to do exercise A, because it will be your homework. Have a look at exercise A. Do it at home, and if you have any problems, contact your teacher. Till we meet again, goodbye and thank you very much.